Ms. Rodriguez, we're going to do something a little different than what we have before. If you don't mind, please. I want you to call order again.
Councilwoman Cowell. Councilman Mark Turner. Here. Councilman Clanton. Councilman George Turner.
Here.
Councilman Adoma. Here. Councilman Turner. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We stand for invocation and pledge of allegiance, please.
Let us pray. Father, precious Father, we invite you into our meeting this evening to take charge. That you would move and operate in our hearts and our minds, and we will call and we will govern according to your direction and to your will. We thank you for the presence of the people that are here today. We thank you for our council and our mayor, those who will make decisions that will enhance and protect the quality of life of our citizens. So Father, we thank you as we submit and commit this meeting unto you, that you might be glorified in all that we do, and we will not embarrass, and we will not come against anything that you have proclaimed in your word, but we will stand on your word and invite you to be a part of all we do tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, Council, we're going to get into the adoption of the city council agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, staff has requested to add 2 items. There are 2, one's a rezoning and a special land use permit item. They were properly advertised and were left off the agenda package for rezoning 18-007 at 6807 Covington Highway, and special land use permit also 18-007 also at 6807 Covington Highway.
So this different than what we have on here, or you have a?
No, I think the agenda was amended to reflect these, but they still need to be voted on by the council in order for them to be added to the agenda, because this was done within 24 hours prior to the meeting starting.
So would it still read the same T1 18-007, or would it read something different?
No, that's the same number. That's just what that's correct.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
And it's RZ.
We still have formal action to be able to actually add those to the agenda. I'm in my motion to adopt the agenda to include the 2 items that were left off. So it's going to be 18-007, RZ 18-007, 6807.
Okay, do you have any further amendments, Council? You'll need a second person to change it.
Just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
The adjustment to the consent agenda is done once you get to the consent agenda or at this point? Once you get to it? Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I also like to
Okay, do we have a second? Okay. So for the, we'll be removing 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll take a motion to accept the agenda with the the aforementioned changes?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept the agenda with the removal of numbers 7 through 10 and the addition of the 2 rezoning issues.
All right, properly moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Agenda approved. Minutes approval for the meetings of the city council member for a meeting for January 14th. Council, let me give you the opportunity to peruse those notes. All right, do we have any changes, council?
Mr. Mayor, just a change in the name of the film company that's in District 2. It's spelled N-E-W ground when it's really N-U ground, new ground.
Okay, new ground, in new ground.
That's in the mayor and council comments.
Mr. Mayor,
All right, sir.
move for approval of the minutes from January 14, 2019,
With the changes of,
with the correction mentioned.
properly moved. Second.
Second.
All right, properly moved and second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes carry. Presentation. Good evening, folks. It's always a pleasure to present things that make us happy. Particularly makes me happy. And hopefully that you all will be happy. And we've had an opportunity to have some outstanding work done that you all, specifically as citizens, constituents, stakeholders, need to know about. So with that, I will bring up the person that knows what they're talking about, which is City Manager Michael Harris.
Mr. Mayor, one thing we, from day one, have always taken pride in has been our approach at financial reporting and how we were going to make sure we got the information out to the public. And I'm just proud to say that earlier this month, we received a letter from the Government Finance Officers Association that states as follows: the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to the City of Stonecrest by Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, for its comprehensive annual financial report, the CAFR, as was mentioned earlier. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by the government and its management. The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure, to clearly communicate its financial story, and to motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. An award of financial reporting achievement has been awarded to the individual and/or department designated by the government as primarily responsible for preparing the award-winning CAFR. So with that, I'd like to ask Ms. Audrey Mays to come up, as well as Mr. James Bentz. Mr. Bentz is with our external auditing firm, Malden & Jenkins, and Ms. Audrey Mays is our accounting manager.
Yeah.
Again,
Damn it.
so you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen. Top dog chef here at Stonecrest. Top dog chef in Stonecrest. We are in compliance and certified with everything at the top of the drawer. Not part of it, not in the middle of it, top drawer. So if you're hearing anything different, just not factual. So having said that, we're going to get even a little bit more specific so that you can be comfortable that we know what we're doing here in Stonecrest at a top level. I'm going to turn the rest of the presentation over to Mr. City Attorney.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
I apologize. Madam City Attorney.
Okay. Good evening. We prepared a memo to Mayor and Council about compliance with registration on sam.gov. And the sam.gov is essentially a portal that has been established by the federal government in order to manage contract awards and grant awards. They made a move to consolidate. They had multiple silos where they were dealing with grants, they were dealing with contracts and some other issues. So in order to be more efficient, they set up sam.gov, and now everything is consolidated in that one portal. Registration with sam.gov, you will have to register in order to apply for federal grants, because there's another portal called grants.gov. And one of the first steps that you have to go through in order to register on grants.gov is to register with sam.gov so that they can track grants through sam.gov. Now, there's no penalty for failing to register with sam.gov, but if you want to apply for federal grants, when you get ready to do those applications, you'll be directed to sam.gov to register as an entity, so they'll be able to track you that way. I did some research because Councilmember Adoma mentioned that South Fulton had already registered, and she's correct. South Fulton did register with sam.gov. They're registered. There are two options for you to register. Well, actually three. Three options for you to register. One, you register to apply for both contracts and to apply for grants. The second option is so that you're an entity that only applies for government contracts. The third option is to register only so that you can apply for grants. South Fulton registered in the third way so that they would be able to apply for grants, be eligible to apply for grants and other government assistance. Now, in terms of compliance with federal law when it comes to procurement on the city level, procurement on the city level is governed either by state law or local law, or perhaps both. If we were doing a construction project that met the thresholds under the Georgia Public Works construction law, then we would have to comply with that law. That's a state statute that we would need to comply with. If we're not dealing with that kind of contract and we're dealing with our run-of-the-mill contracts that we do for the city, then we need to comply with the city's purchasing policy and any ordinances associated with that. So that's a high-level view of what we provided in the memo, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So I want to be crystal clear on this, and I'm going to ask you three to make it crystal clear for me. Are we in compliance with everything that we need to be in compliance for?
In terms of needing to be registered with sam.gov or face some kind of penalty for not being registered, there is no penalty. So from that standpoint, you are in compliance. If the city wishes to apply for any federal grants, then you need to go ahead and take that step. But there's no penalty for not registering. It's really up to the city to determine whether they want to access those federal grants and then take the step to register with sam.gov.
And Mr. Mayor, I will add that, so the city has gone ahead and registered with sam.gov. We went through the process last week. Mr. Rodriguez took care of all that. And beyond that, what we do regularly is we monitor the DCA's website, the Department of Community Affairs, their website, to make sure that we submitted and sent to DCA for review, so they have that. So we already will clearly meet that requirement. The other one is our service delivery strategy agreement, which the council voted on at the last council meeting. So that's been voted on, the resolution's been approved, and that's been forwarded on to the county that'll be submitted through the county. So again, we feel confident that we'll well meet the deadlines of February 28th to maintain our compliance status through DCA. And as it stands right now, in checking the State Department of Audit's website, we do also remain in compliance with them. There is, I think, maybe some documents that we're checking back with them to see if we need to go back and follow up on in regards to immigration. But that's the one thing we're kind of flesh out to find out what's required for them. But from a compliance standpoint, as stated by both of those organizations, we are listed as being fully compliant.
Thank you. Council? Seeing none, public comments.
Yeah, there were certain items that were listed that speak specifically to upcoming items. So I'll give those opportunities for those individuals to be able to speak during those items. Those that were not, I guess you can kind of read them off and ask if they want to speak during that or not. First one is Angela Sawford. Is that a zoning item? It's one of the items that are coming up later on in the meeting. Okay, you have an opportunity to speak at that time, certainly. Ed Wassel. Okay. Danny Hardy. Okay. Scott Pluckham. Right. And Mr. Dave Marcus. I'll take that. I knew you would. And again, just for those who have deferred to later on, there'll be an opportunity during the public hearing for comment from the public, so you have an opportunity at that time.
Good evening, everyone. In part, I wanted to speak to one of the items on the agenda, which has been removed, which is SPLOST management. There's also some other SPLOST items Given that that particular item was removed, I think what I'd like to do is speak with two voices. The first as a citizen, a landowner in District 5. The second is as the chairman of the SPLOST Citizens Oversight Advisory Committee. And I'd like to take that role first and simply remind the council of the recommendations to, number one, use the city engineer and city staff as project managers for SPLOST in order to get that off the ground as soon as possible at the least possible cost, providing that there would not be, of course, any violation of the city's purchasing policy in doing that. Second, if it's determined that for some reasons that is not feasible, we had also recommended that the initiation of a purchasing process, a competitive one, be initiated as soon as possible. We also recommended that an automated paving analysis be undertaken, again, as soon as possible, but always in compliance with the purchasing policies. The paving season, as Kerry pointed out in the presentation at, I believe, the last meeting, runs roughly from April to November. Asphalt plants close for the winter. Asphalt needs to be applied at certain temperatures. In addition, paving companies get their resources booked fairly early in the year, and there's concern that the reputable companies may be getting booked up quickly, so that even if we are ready to move, we would have to use second-tier companies and hopefully still get first-tier work, which seems like a contradiction. So my urging is simply that the council act quickly to get this done. We need paving. We need an analysis to understand which streets should be repaired, which should be repaved, which should be totally rehabbed. We need this done, or we will potentially, if the pace keeps going at the current pace, and I'm going to switch to a citizen voice here, we will not get anything repaved in 2019 except on an emergency basis, doing the very worst ones without going through as much of an analysis process as would be preferred. It is on y'all to act. It's been a long time talking about how to do it, who to do it with, et cetera, et cetera. Please do it soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus.
That's all we received.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move into our agenda items. This is our second read for the amendment to the purchasing policy. We've heard from our city attorney with regards to what he was proposing with regards to those amendments. Is there any addition, Mr. City Attorney?
No, I don't have anything further. I'm happy to answer questions from the council, but I don't have anything further.
All right, good deal. All right. Any further questions from council?
One question, Mr. Mayor. One question for the lawyer. Attorney Denmark, just wondering, I just got this evening, and I'm so sorry, but we've been at GMA, and I have not had adequate time to evaluate it and to read it. So I was just wondering if it's possible that we can just defer until I have an opportunity to read it.
I don't think that's a question for me. If that's the pleasure of the council, you certainly may.
We're on our second read with regards to this, and you have an opportunity.
Is this the second or the first?
I apologize. This is our first read. I apologize. It's our first read. My error, Councilwoman. This is our first read. So everybody will have an opportunity, including yourself and all council and mayor, to have an opportunity to now continue to go over it because we are still up for a second read.
Just to echo the same thing, and that is that more time is needed to review it because I have some questions and there'll be quite a few, and I don't want to go through it now.
Okay.
Until I have a chance to read it thoroughly, maybe more than once.
Okay. So with that, we have our second read won't come up until 2 weeks from now. Yeah. All right.
February 4th.
February 4th. All right. And so that I'm on the great confidence that we'll have an opportunity to. Actually, second Monday. That's right. One more. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. So it's the 11th. Yes, even better. So yes, that would allow us 3 weeks to reread, contact council, contact city attorney to clear anything up that we have. All right. Thank you. Number 2, we'll go to the Quicket Agreement. And this is an opportunity for us to do a couple of things, council, and then we can put in practice some of the things actually that city attorney is looking for us to do now. So would that be deputy city manager or city manager? Or mayor?
To the deputy or the mayor.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Good to see you.
All right.
Wanted to come before you. We have received a proposal from Quicket Solutions. What we've encountered here in the city is for lack of a better term, just a plethora of different types of systems that are operating within the city, within various different departments, and we're encountering some silos of data, and it's not being shared across our systems, and some of our movement of that data is a little bulky at best. So we've looked to Quicket Solutions to come on board to do some consulting with the city to look at the outline and basically give us put together a system map for the city, and then do a gap analysis of those areas where we are deficient. So those areas where there are silos of data. Look at those areas that we do not integrate different systems with one another, and we quite possibly stand the danger of actually losing data, or actually data not working with other systems. So what we wanted to do was bring Quicket Solutions on board to actually do that analysis, conduct the gap analysis, and then come back to the city with recommendations as to how we can have a fully integrated system solution for across all of the platforms that we currently have, and all the future ones that we do plan to have. As I said, the gap analysis would then point to those areas where we need additional system and solution support. Look at the systems that we do have in place. As you know, with our Parks and Recreation, we'll be looking at some systems for that to operate, some asset management systems. And we just want to make sure that everything is working together and get away from having so many disparate different systems operating within City Hall.
Okay, Mr. Deputy City Manager, this is where we get a chance to test our policies here. This will be a good thing.
Yes, it would.
So here's what we're looking at, Council. Mr. Joyner and I have looked high and low for a year or so with regards to a company or companies that could do exactly what we just talked about, integrate our different systems, from a technical standpoint, from an operational standpoint. We've already made a certain investment with regards to Citizen Serve and all the pieces that we use with regards to our code enforcement and those particular pieces. The long and the short of it is that for us to be a complete city of innovation and excellence, those systems eventually have to talk. They eventually have to speak with regards to, and I'm putting this at a 10,000 foot level because as they explained it to me, of course, I had to have Mr. Joyner with me to be able to put it in English terms once they finished. But having interviewed several companies, as a matter of fact, with regards to custom work and their knowledge of several areas, code enforcement, police, their certification with regards to the highest level of our government entities, such as FEMA and some other places, we finally narrowed it down to this particular company to be able to help us out. So with that, Council, with your permission, we'd like to enter into an agreement with this organization to be able to do the integration study and opportunity so that we can make that happen. With that, two things. One, it is within our purchasing authority, because it's under $25,000, that we can do that. But we want to be able to have you all satisfied with regards to that decision, because we want this to be, a full team effort. As I said before, we spent a year looking for this type of entity to be able to do this type of work. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Deputy, that they're doing some work in even Rockdale County as we sit today.
Yes, they're engaged with putting in, I believe it's the code enforcement and it's some public safety applications for Rockdale County.
Exactly. So what that does, in short, Council, is that while we've indoctrinated, and this is coming up here, our pothole tracker, an opportunity for what happens with our streetlight inventory, we come to that decision. The combination of all of our systems that we have in place today, this is the company that we have high confidence in to be able to make that happen. So I said that to say, Council, I wanted to move back to Mr. City Attorney and the Council itself. We like permission to be able to enter into agreement, with this organization.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
How long is this engagement?
Yeah, this engagement is set. It's a 12-month engagement with them to actually hire system analysis and the gap analysis and come back with their recommendations.
And that should finish what we're seeking to achieve?
Well, what we want out of this is they're coming in here on a fully consultative basis. So they're not coming to sell. They're not selling in any software applications or any systems. This is mainly for consultation and to provide the city with recommendations and provide a framework for what our systems and integrated systems should look like for the city.
And again, you said several systems. How many systems? Do you know how many systems we have that are not?
That is part of what they're doing. Believing at last count, we probably have five to six different disparate types of systems we have running, and with more on the way. And that was really the fear that we're going to be bringing on some more disparate systems that don't work together.
Earlier, there was a reference to cybersecurity measures being taken. How do we achieve that?
Actually, Quicket Solutions is an expert in that particular area, and so they are actually certified with the federal government for that type of cybersecurity, and they operate sort of the cloud-based hosting. That's actually right within the bailiwick of this particular company.
Well, I was told that, we were told that some measures have already been taken. So what I'm asking is, who did that for us?
Well, our IT department is working on the internal systems and internal a firewall and those types of things for the city, just as a normal course of business.
What I'm getting to is that our IT department is quite capable, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. This
is something that
this is an addition to the IT department manages the servers that manages our internal networks, manages our email systems and those type of things. The purpose of this company is then to pull all of those different systems that are not connected directly to those all together into one particular system.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Joyner. I have a couple of questions for you and Mr. Harris. What roads does the City of Stonecrest currently own?
Excuse me?
What roads?
What?
Roads.
R-O-A?
R-O-A-D-S? They're like
right now, the city doesn't own any roads. All the roads within Stonecrest are either operated by the county, DeKalb County, state of Georgia, or by the federal government.
Okay, so we're still in the process of renegotiating, or negotiating, not renegotiating. We're still in the process of negotiating an IGA or an agreement with DeKalb County. And until that is completed, I think what you're saying is DeKalb County actually have responsibility for the roads.
Correct.
So we have up until May 8th. I think that's what you all renegotiated with the county.
Yeah, it wasn't, that's
That's something
the
else.
transition date.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman. I'm sorry. I want to apologize, and I apologize up front. And it's not to you. This is for all the council. Stay on the subject at hand. The subject at hand that we're speaking of is an opportunity for us to contract with an integrator, a company that takes software at the highest level that we have here. We're not on roads yet. We're still on internal processes with regards to technology. Not any disrespect to anybody, but we have to stay on one street so that we can finish that. But again, I apologize. It's not for you. It's for everybody.
Okay, let me back up. Let me rephrase that. Sorry about that, Mr. Joyner. Okay. I'll ask you that one on the next one.
Okay, no problem.
I think this was on the agenda before, and we had a very lively, in-depth, comprehensive conversation about it. And being that I do support innovation and technology, I think that's one of the best ways to grow the city. But if I recall, there were, during those discussions, there were just a lot of questions that came up, and have no idea what happened in the process. But I would like to have you provide the copy of those questions, the answers to those questions. I think you put it in a written format, or somebody did?
I'm not exactly recalling these conversations. We did have a representative from Quicket Solutions here, and I believe he answered your questions. I'm not sure if what was outstanding from there.
Yeah, I was just trying to go back to it because I think what was said is that you really don't need the council's approval because it's within your signing authority. So what I wanted to do, if you're asking for the council approval, I'd just like to go back and revisit, not all of those questions. We don't need to go back.
Once again, to be perfectly clear, the last time Quicket Solutions came and addressed the mayor and council, they were offering a software solution. They were looking at, I believe it was a code enforcement based solution for the city. This is not that. They are not selling a software package.
I think one of the main questions, if I recall, that came up during that time was how the information was going to be stored and who owned the information, how would it be used, would the citizens have access to it, and the list went on. There were just a few. I just want to have you refresh my memory, and you don't have to do it now, but just send me something reminding me what is it that...
One thing is, it's going to be very difficult to refresh your memory until you refresh mine. So
maybe I can help with that.
Yeah.
So I pulled the email up, and so it does say in here specifically that the cloud-based platform proposes a comprehensive data management to seamlessly integrate existing systems within Stonecrest, which would include code enforcement, financial management, business, license permitting, and other platforms that we use or are looking to use. So this seems very similar to what you're presenting now. The difference is it went from 50-some thousand to 25 or below. And I think the last time we had this conversation, we had not gone through the quote process because it was over the spending limit, and we had not gone through the competitive bid process. And I thought, and my memory could be bad because this was back in July of 18.
Okay.
So I thought that we were going to seek the other either quotes for that amount, and then I don't remember where it went from there. So if you will, kind of let us know, what is the difference? I hear you're saying it's not a package, it's not a software package this time, but your intro to what we were doing is painstakingly similar to what this email says. So if we can have something that lets us know what's the difference between the statement of work from the last time we had this discussion and the $50,000 cost to what we're trying to determine today.
Yeah. Once again, the biggest difference is that we took out the piece about them installing a software package for the city. Upon further reflection and discussing this with internal staff, it was really determined that what they were proposing was actually going to be some of what they were proposing was going to be redundant systems that we already have in place in the city. And so in order to get away from the danger of even doing something of that magnitude, we said, let's take a step back. Let's do an analysis of what we have. Let's do a gap analysis of what the city is missing. And then let's see about filling those particular gaps with various different software systems. So what we wanted to do is get away from, my department wants to add this. Someone else's department wants to add something else. Someone else's department wants to, and then we're just stacking on different things. And we ran the risk of, when we went back to look, that we were going to be doing some stuff that had already been addressed by another software package. So that's why we said, take the software package out, come in and do an analysis of what we have in place now, do a gap analysis of what we're missing, propose some solutions for us that is going to work, make something that is comprehensive and something, to your point, integrates all of our systems together, and then we'll move forward from there.
Okay.
So they're not providing any technical support whatsoever?
No. This is all.
This is only consulting.
All consulting, and it ends right at that point.
And what that does, counsel, is that it gives us an unbiased look and view at all the things that we have. And then there's not one person that says, well, I have this widget to sell you or something to add on to it. This gives a very, very high level and detailed technical review with regards to what we have, what it takes to integrate, where we're going, and all the questions that we can, get answered. Then we can go out with regards to, what some real costs are that we'll bring back, of course, to council with a detailed report in that particular the piece of it. But we need somebody independent that can, that's certified at the highest levels. That's the thing that Mr. Joyner and I learned. And we went to Chicago to see exactly what they have. Very impressive. And that was the same young man that came here, to make the presentation. So we have to start somewhere. Councilwoman.
Thank you. I did find my notes, Mr. Joyner. I think one of the questions that came up during that time was, I think I had requested or had asked if we could add a clause that would address if the company went out of business or went bankrupt, just to add a clause. And then the other one was a lot of their original employees had left the company, and as have been said, most of their focus was not on technology; it was on deployment. And I'll send you these notes. But
because that's the first I've heard that.
Yeah.
Most of their employees have left the company.
Yeah, I can send this to you again if you like. I'll send you a copy of it. There's no need in taking up the citizens' time with this right now.
Okay, so council, again, we like to ask you permission to move forward, even with this. That's at our threshold, but we want your permission for it. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page. I think that's the best way to be able to do business.
If you would could we have something in writing that shows the difference in what's being requested of now versus what was there before?
Oh, yeah. I apologize. We've sent the contract to the attorneys. We just hadn't received the updated, the legalese piece from the attorney. So as soon as I receive that, I'll forward that on and take a look at that.
Okay. I don't like this situation here. I don't like this.
Okay, then let me make a suggestion then so that everyone's comfortable. We'll get that information, get that contract back from Quicket, forward it to council. Again, in the spirit of cooperation and partnership, I'd rather do it this way. And then we move forward from there. All right? Thank you, Mr. Joyner.
All righty.
I appreciate it. Okay. We'll move to the road analysis execution. That's my part there. I want to share a story with council and my constituents here, our constituents, and along with staff. It's not a hard story, and it won't be long. And the story I want to share with you, and quite frankly, pertains to Quicken and some other things also. And this, we can wrap it all in one piece. And it's called How to Change Your Position. How to Change Your Position. And I want to tell you about this. There are some people that are sitting in here in the room that knew me when I was a surly gentleman. Some would say, you were worse than this? Yes, at one time I was. That's good. That's good. Normally I'd crawl out of my skin, but I don't do that anymore. Why? Because I changed my position. So let me give you this quick story about changing your position. And this is just life period. And I'm quite frankly, I'm proud to tell this story because I've grown as a business person. I've grown as a Christian. I've grown, quite frankly, as a public servant. But if this were a year and a half ago, just that close, you wouldn't have been able to get me to stand next to the city of Lithonia. You wouldn't have gotten me to even throw a rock through the city of Lithonia. I stood there right in the news and said, don't you call me, and I won't call you. Whatever happens to you, happens to you, period. I am done with y'all. I am away from them, and now I'm over here at Stonecrest, and we're going to make everything happen under the sun. Well, you know, as time passes by, and things change, and people change, and stuff happens to you, and stuff happens to everyone else, I've changed my position. And I'm not just moving my lips on changing my position. You should change your position if it helps and should help your neighbors and the people that need help, and collaborating for yourself. To this day, Mayor Jackson and I sit on the same committees. We work together with mappings. We make sure that both cities have exactly where we need to go with regards to being able to proper. And I think the term, Judge Ramley, is all tides lift all boats, or at least the rising tides lift all boats. And that's just the way I see it. So why would I tell you this story? Why would I bring this up? Is because I want you in the audience, and I also want a council to consider changing your position. You don't have to dig so hard in on everything that has to happen so that I'm going to burn the place down if it doesn't happen my way. It's a lot of burnt down places. It doesn't have to go that way. So I'm not really talking about one particular subject, but what I like to offer for everyone that's here, learn how to grow in your position. Grow in your position. And I mean grow in your position as we continue to make this the best city that we can. With that said, that's why I bring up the road analysis execution, which is number 4. Folks, I sat in here. If you missed our town hall meeting with regards to potholes and things that are happening, that was a good one. Matter of fact, that was a great one. We had an opportunity for people to come and speak. They gave their testimony with regards to playing dodgeball with the potholes in the middle of the street, cars that are being destroyed, things that are being torn up, costing citizens money. But even more so, folks, the health of you all and myself and the people that are in here that's driving in Stonecrest. I don't know how we would feel. Yes, I do know how we would feel if something happened to you all after we sat here, after Dave Marcus has already told us 3 meetings in a row that he swerved on Salem Road and some other places to keep from ahead on. When you all know daily that we move and go travel down Turner Hill Road where there is not only potholes, but there are planters inside of the potholes. And quite frankly, I don't want to have to see Tammy Grimes' husband, who's twice my size and a lot younger than me, in the hallway wondering why we didn't fix the things that we had to do. So I said that to say to council, change your position. This is what I want. We have an opportunity for, if Mr. Joyner gives me my memory correctly here, to have a digital road analysis and a road analysis from the county that we can have evaluated for $70,000. We're in the cold season right now. That means that we have an opportunity to evaluate these roads from two standpoints. One, that list that the county does themselves. That's, I guess, a two-man in a truck analog view. In addition to hiring as the committee has suggested that we do, a digital road analysis. So we actually have the best of both worlds. Being able to do that, we have an opportunity for our own internal city engineer, which is Ken Hildebrand. I think he's waving his hand like, hey, Mr. Hildebrand, how you doing? To assist us in evaluating, planning, and making sure we can get these potholes and roads filled. Because as the SPLOST committee has mentioned to us, folks, we're on the edge of not filling one pothole, not fixing one street if we're not careful. But we have people that are sitting in the room here that are experts in this arena that can help us without taking away from anybody else. That's what I mean by council and folks. Let's change our position. So with that said, I'd like for us to be able to do a couple of things. One, council, if we hire a company to do a digital road analysis, which we've already sent out the bids last year, and that whole particular piece, we know where the companies are. We get a couple of three things. One, we get exactly the road analysis that we can use from a digital standpoint, and we can double check that against the ones that have already been done by the county. That's the first thing. Second thing, which is probably the most important thing of those two, is that we get a street light inventory that we wouldn't have had before. This moves right into our City of Innovation. This moves right into with regards to if we're going to put cameras up in the future with regards to public safety. This moves right into making sure that we have the correct entrance and exits in parks and for our parks and in Parks and Rec Department, and augmenting what we're going to do from a technical standpoint long term. All of that with regards to being able to do that for $70,000. So council, we don't require anybody really other than the folks that we have on staff here that we're already paying. Let's get this road analysis, this digital road analysis, so that we can cover all the bases across the board. That's the digital road analysis itself, being able to compare it with the work that the county has already put together. We have an experienced person in our own city engineer with Ken Hildebrand, who's done exactly this for Tucker, and they are, quite frankly, a year ahead of us. And we'll have an opportunity to not miss the paving season. I know that was long, but I wanted you to consider all the factors, folks, as we begin to determine where we need to go to from here. So with that, I'll take questions, comments.
Procurement questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Mr. Harris, would executing something like this dive into the 2 times multiplier for the construction management portion using Ken and or someone else from CH2M?
Yeah, I'd like to bring Ken up, maybe address that specifically.
While he's coming up, did we do the official RFP process, or did we get quotes?
We got quotes. There's not a lot of firms that do this. Obviously, it's fairly specialized work. So as I recall, and this took place about over a year ago, Mr. Hildebrand has specific knowledge in working with a couple different firms. One firm was more highly recommended than the other. we brought forward a proposal from that firm because that we added the streetlight inventory, and that brought it over the threshold. So at that point, we went back and did go ahead and solicit quotes from the other firm. They did come in higher than the original firm. So we had quotes from two competing firms.
Well, similar to Bates Carter?
Yes.
We just need to verify that the quotes satisfy the procurement, the competitive bid process according to our purchase policy.
And yes, so that's exactly right. This is a very specialized business. I mean, there are dozens and dozens of firms out there that can evaluate your streets, but there's just a very select few that have this kind of laser technology. And I'll add that this is not only a pavement analysis. This is more importantly, it's a budget tool because they will be able to tell you not only the rating of each street, but how to spend your money. You need to spend $15 million over the next 6 years, or $20 million, or you need to get a bond. Would it be beneficial to get a bond and do a lot of resurfacing in the first couple of years, and knock it out real quickly? So it's really a budgeting tool. So Stantec was the firm that we've worked with in the past, and they were the much lower of the two quotes we received. And then you talked about Jacob's involvement. We're recommending that the city contract directly with this company, Stantec. The only involvement that Jacobs would have would be actually managing that.
Can you say that one more time? Jacobs will be involved doing what?
We'll be managing the firm. We'll be communicating with them. We'll be updating the council. We'll be managing that process. The actual staff's recommendation is that the city contract directly with Stantec.
Okay. So your management, would that fall into the 2 times multiplier for construction management?
It would.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So that's two separate, it's two separate costs, but for the same item. Okay. I got to process that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Couple of questions. DeKalb County has the windshield approach, so to speak, and one of the experts that spoke to us said that was probably one of the best methods. Only drawback is at the time it takes to actually execute it in terms of collecting the data. Has DeKalb County, to your knowledge, collected data for 2018?
I don't think so. I think the last time they evaluated the streets was 2017. I could be wrong.
Now, I put a call in for today, and they didn't get back to me yet, so I'll still wait on that.
I think that data is at least a year old.
But even at that, that is for road analysis, and this digital device does road analysis, and you say, what else? So give me the whole list of what we would get from this road analysis super machine, so to speak, that we won't get from the windshield method.
Well, just talking about the pavement management component, again, they're going to give you a budget on how to spend the money. So what they'll do is they'll do the analysis, they'll rate all the streets, and so they'll have a number on all the streets. Then we would bring that back to council, and we'd give you 4 different scenarios. We'd ask for your direction on how you wanted to proceed. So let me go over those briefly with you. The 4 different scenarios. The first scenario would be as Kerry Williams' presentation, and he had a great presentation, by the way. But he showed you a graph that showed the PCI scores and how rapidly the condition of roads decline. And when it gets to a certain point, the roads are failing, and it's really not cost efficient to pave those roads. The biggest bang for the buck would be to pave the roads just before they fail. So that's one approach you could take. I've never had the courage to recommend that, I'll be honest with you, because we're going to tell the citizens all right, your road is rated an 18, but we're not going to pave that yet. It's too bad. We're going to pave this one that's a 52 because we'll get more bang for the buck that way. That's hard to sell, but he is correct. That is the most cost-efficient way to do it. But so that's one method. The other method would be when we get our evaluations of each street, we pave from worst to first, single streets at a time. That's what the county does. Again, that's not the most efficient way to do it because we've talked about before, and I think in the mayor subdivision, you have a 200-foot cul-de-sac at the end of the subdivision that's in bad shape, but the rest of the subdivision is in good shape. So you're going to take those heavy trucks filled with asphalt, run over all the streets, and pave this cul-de-sac at the end that has 5 people living on it. Again, that's not the most efficient way to do it, but that is an approach. If you want to do worst to first, that's another way to do it. The third option would be to pave in what they call super sections. Now, super section is a grouping of streets that makes logical sense. So it could be a single street, it could be a Salem Road, or it could be a subdivision of streets. It just depends, but you cluster the streets so that you pave them in a more efficient manner. So that's the third scenario. The fourth scenario would be to do your major roads first. Major roads affect everybody. It has the most amount of traffic on it. You can't get out of your subdivision without going on a collector or arterial street. So maybe you want to concentrate on the major roads for the first couple of years, get those up to snuff, and then go to your subdivision streets. So my point is we would bring those different scenarios to you. We would show you the numbers on those, and we would get your direction on how you wanted to proceed. And then we'd go back to the firm and ask them to finish up the study.
My concern is under the manual method, if you will, that the Cap County is using, they're constantly evaluating the roads. If you use this machine and you get one swipe, it's done. And 6 weeks from now, after a freeze, thaw, who's going to be checking? Well, in other words, who does the updating as you go along?
Well, the condition of the roads change. I mean, they don't change overnight. They change over a period of time. But you're right. There are a lot of factors that go into it, and the study needs to be updated every 2 or 3 years. That's correct. It's not going to be updated simultaneously, as a pothole develops, but it does require to be updated.
So you say you recommend every 2 or 3 years to run this process?
I would do it every 3 years. I would do a reevaluation, yes, sir.
That's a lot of changes in 3 years.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question for you in reference to the SPLOST.
Yes, sir.
Once we get our project management in place, will this company be working along with SPLOST? How would that work with our project management team?
This is just this will be a payment analysis. It'll be about a 12-week turnaround. It'll take a couple of weeks for them to get their truck into town. It depends on where they are. I spoke to them today, and they feel like they can get here within a couple of weeks. And then after that, really probably about 6 or 8 weeks to actually complete the study. So I'm going to say about a 10-week turnaround. And once we have that data, they're done. We're done with them. And then it'd be up to the mayor and council to determine how you're going to manage the resurfacing program from there.
Okay, quick question, and I think my first question is for Mr. Harris, if you don't mind. I think I mentioned earlier, and you confirmed it, that as of today, Stonecrest, we don't actually own the roads, but we're working on that. I know we're working on that.
I'd like to clarify that. Stonecrest, we own the roads, but the county is still responsible for maintaining the roads up through May 8th. At that point, we either have an agreement with them or we have to take over that maintenance. So yeah, we own them, but they do the maintenance. Yes.
Okay, so we own them, but the county is still responsible for the paving of the roads.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay, and that's roads and drainage. So I guess my question is, and maybe maybe you can answer it. Does it make sense for us to first quickly negotiate the IGA with the county so that we all know what our role is, and then do the analysis and then do the paving? I'm just asking, that just seems like that makes sense to me, but I may be out of my lane. So I need for you all to help me understand why we wouldn't get the contract in place with the county. We don't even know what we're going to negotiate because we haven't completed that process. So negotiating the IGA, getting that in place so that everybody knows what we're going to do, what you're going to do. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think Panola Road, I think 155 and 124 are state routes, are their shared responsibility. So there's a lot of things that goes into getting the roads resurfacing and paving them right. And I just think that the first step should be to get our IGA, do the road analysis, and pave like mad and get rid of the potholes.
Well, first of all, if you do that, you're going to miss the paving season. So you can write off 2019. Secondly,
why is that? I'm sorry. Why is that?
Because by the time you enter into your IGA and then you do a 12-month road analysis and then you go through the procurement process and then you select a contractor and then the contractor mobilizes, it's going to be well past the paving season. So you're probably looking at spring of 2020 at that point.
And just to jump in, so what we have done, we're committed doing right now is utilizing our LMIG funds that we've received from the state to begin paving this spring. That is something that we've had this conversation with council previously. We were, based on population and lane miles, we're eligible for a little over $500,000 of funds for local maintenance improvement grant paving. So we identified the roads based on the only information we had at the time, which was the list from DeKalb County, which I think at the time was the 17 data. Mr. Joyner has informed me that we have just recently received the 18 data. So we did use that to develop a list because we had to submit that to the state by the end of the year, by the end of the year.
But the LMIG funds, those are matching funds.
Right, we have to provide matching funds with that. Correct.
Matching funds, and so I'm just trying to get clear. I'm just trying to come up with the most efficient way and the most cost-effective way for us to get all these roads paved in Stonecrest. So I'm just trying to get clear on the process. And I think is construction management and splosh management the same?
SPLOST is a revenue source. The voters approved a 1% sales tax, so you have that designated SPLOST money. But then you also have other capital projects as well. You have LMIG and you have general fund and you have federal funding on some process.
Okay, so it's my understanding we can't pave until we don't have an IGA, so should we be paving, not an IGA, without an agreement?
Well, let me say, and Mr. Harris can correct me if I'm wrong, the county's not going to pave any of our roads. We're working on a IGA for a maintenance agreement. And maintenance includes potholes and patching and so forth, but paving is really a capital improvement. And so we're not on the county's consideration in terms of paving road.
That's right. Yeah. So last year, every year a municipality will receive LMIG funds. Last year, or the year before, before the city was incorporated, I think even last year they had the money because they had to submit by the end of 2017.
Yeah.
So they received the funds. The funds came to the county, and they determined what roads are going to be paved. This year, we want to take control over that process, which we did. So we developed a list ourselves to decide these are the roads we want to make sure get paved. So the funds have come in now. We just received the funds the other day. So we're starting the process of identifying a contractor to put together a bid to identify a contractor to go ahead. So again, our goal has always been to make sure we are paving roads this spring. Paving roads. Now, part of that process would be if there's damage to that road that needs to be repaired, They may cut out and depend on the extent of the damage, or mill it down, just depends on how severe the damage may be. So the base will have to be prepared before you actually go through the resurfacing. So while you can have two roads exact same length, one may cost $100,000, one may cost $200,000, just depends on what's needed to repair it to bring it up to speed.
So the millage we pay for roads should cover filling potholes then?
That's correct, it does, yeah.
Let me ask one more. When it comes to identifying potholes, how critical is this device, this digital device? I mean, I can tell you where all the potholes are.
Yes. Potholes are one of the criteria they have, and it's really the same criteria that the county uses. They look at longitudinal cracking and alligator cracking, and
so they're identifying potential potholes.
So they're looking at the same factors that go into the score. They have a different rating system of 60 down to 0, 60 being the worst. But the PCI score is 0 to 100. But anyway, they're looking at the same factors. It's just we think, a more precise way to go about it. But to answer your question, potholes is one of the factors that they look at. But obviously, I mean, you can fill a pothole and then you don't have a pothole anymore. But they're looking at a lot more detail in that.
They can tell us where potential potholes are are likely to develop.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so with the road analysis, I'm looking in this, is that part of the SPLOSH program?
It could be funded from SPLOSH. I don't know that it's been budgeted.
I think it's part of the SPLOSH. Let me answer my own question. I think it's part of the SPLOSH program. So I'm just wondering, would the program manager work with DeKalb County to determine the next step? Because otherwise it seems like this might be a fragmented approach. And that's just all I have to say right now.
Okay, so let me jump in. Let me jump in. I'm going to reillustrate what we talked about before. And thank you, Council, for your questions. We have a multi-pronged approach to this that works very well. But before I go into that, Mr. Hildebrandt, with this company, doesn't even have to be this company, but with this process, how has your experience been in Tucker? Because everybody wants to compare us to another city. Just tell us about how far along Tucker is. What's happening in Tucker?
Tucker, we selected the firm Stantec last year about this time, and they mobilized pretty quickly, and they gave us the study within a couple of months. We took that to the city council and got their approval. Now, we weren't able to go out to bid until July 1st because that's their fiscal year. So they dedicated a portion of their SPLOSH to resurfacing, and we were also able to show them that wasn't enough, that really you need additional money. You got your SPLOSH, you got some LMIG. We really need additional general fund money in order to make a dent in this thing, and they were able to fund that. So after July 1st, when we had the funding in place, then we went out to bid. We went through the procurement process. We got the contractor on board, and we wanted to do about $4 million worth of resurfacing. We ran out of weather because we got started a little bit late. We did about $3.5 million worth of resurfacing.
Okay, so
Can I ask a procurement question? Another procurement question while you're.
yes, ma'am.
Do we have an updated statement of work or proposal from Stantec? The one I have is dated January of 2018. So I'm sure this is not the one that we're being asked to evaluate today from 18. Do we have an updated version of this?
We do not.
What's the cost that you have, Councilwoman? Or what's the price on it?
This one has the $47,000 for the field data collection, and then another $2,875 for the signals and flashers, and then another $19,550 for signs and supports, which I didn't calculate, but quickly in my head, that's about $70,000. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is dated from last year, though. So do we have one with a more current date on it, and has it gone through legal to make sure that we have satisfied all the legal procurement questions?
Well, it'd be unfair to ask Mr. Hildebrand
No,
that.
I'm really addressing.
Okay. But that sounds like the same proposal that we're talking about. I don't know how much that would change.
Yeah, we've had a couple. We've had one at 70. We've had one at 50. Well, that's 47.
Well, we know about that. Okay.
We've had a few of them.
Yeah, we can certainly get an updated version. I think there's a willingness for them to honor the price, but we can certainly get something in writing to confirm that.
They have agreed to hold their price.
Say it again.
They have agreed to hold their price.
Okay.
Wonderful.
It's not.
Like
it's
it in
not
writing.
Yeah.
Well, having said that, let me summarize, and Mr. Hildebrand, keep me honest.
Yes, sir.
So the reason I like this process a lot better is because of its financial and spending modeling with regards to where we need to go long term. Potholes, paving, the whole piece of it. I get the 2 men in the truck, and I believe that their visuals are fine, but it's nothing like having that digital comparison to it, because the human eye can miss some things. That's the first thing. Second thing is the street light and stop sign inventory. That is worth it by itself for where we're going. That's worth it. That's worth it by itself. It's a bonus round, is to be able to make sure that we have both ends covered, and of course being able to know what we're going to do with regards to those positions with our entry and exit into Parks and Rec and public safety. That's why this has a multitude of uses from that. Thank you, sir. So with that said, let me make a motion here, and then I'll put some caveat to it. I move that we approve to move forward with a digital analysis, and that the updated contract be reviewed and sent to legal and counsel to make sure that those prices are the same that we talked about. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right.
So I've got a question about that motion, though. So
All right.
let's just say devil's advocate, it comes back $71,000. Would we then need to come back and make another motion, because this motion ties us to the price that's in it?
Then, with this said, Councilwoman, great question. We're going to hold them to that price that's on your page. We're not coming back for the $1,000.
Or not to exceed, perhaps.
Yeah,
Or not to exceed. So should I restate that?
not to exceed 70,000.
Yeah.
All right. So I move. There's an amendment to my motion, and I'll amend it myself. I move that we approve the digital analysis from Stantec to be able to cover an amount not to exceed $71,000 with regards to,
70 or 71.
I'm going to say 71 because I want a cushion. Not coming back for $1,000.
Oh, but you were going to hold him to
But you said 71. What if they come back at 71? so to hold it 70,000. Contract to be submitted to legal and counsel for approval. That's my amended version. Do I have a second for the amended version?
You have a second, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Now, any further discussion?
Not one penny.
Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Your potholes will be filled ASAP. Now that takes us to our Citizens Pothole Oversight Committee. So having that, we're going to make this quick. See me after the meeting, and I will put you on the committee. Tell me what district you're in. We'll mention it from there. Then we'll move forward. I'll take your names, and we can just have a jolly good time. And what that committee will do is to make sure that we're doing exactly what we said we were going to do, and make sure that we haven't missed anything, and make sure that we have exactly the priorities. So let me tell you this, and this is my opinion and assumption on this, and I mean this out of all sincerity and seriousness. I'm just not going to have you calling me over one of your kids getting killed in these potholes or mines. So whoever we have to get done to get this particular piece done, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it now. Otherwise, why we're a city? If we can't take action on the things that is staring us in the face while we have the money in the bank, shame on us. Especially when I can play you back a tape from your own commissioner and say, I ain't feeling no potholes in Stonecrest. Really now? Would you just let me do my cartoon piece? So still, but I'm going to fill your potholes in Stonecrest. How about that? So you're counting on us, and we're going to make it happen. And thank you, Council, for that. So pothole for the Citizens Pothole Oversight Committee, I'll wait around. You can see me afterwards. Not a problem. Number 5, pothole tracker. I don't know if some of you were at the our straight talk for the potholes itself. We have a pothole tracking mechanism now that's technical. You can take a picture of it. You can upload it. You can show us exactly where that pothole is. It tracks on a map. It's on our site, as a matter of fact. You can go to our site right now, and there's a position on it that you can use so that we won't miss one pothole in Stonecrest. Because to be able to fix them, you have to what? Know where they are. They cannot be, hiding from you, because some of you live, as we do, in neighborhoods that we don't drive on the main thoroughfare. So that pothole tracker is already on site. Number 6.
I got
Council.
a point of order, please.
There we go.
Point of order for the attorney. I'm just looking at Robert's Rules of Order. So I'm just wondering, are we under Robert's Rules of Order?
For the last couple of years, I think
I'm
that's
asking the
what we've been
attorney.
doing. But I'm answering your question.
I'm asking the attorney.
I'm asking your question. That's what we're on, the Robert Rules
Attorney
of Order.
Denmark, can you please answer my question?
Childish.
Yes, ma'am.
The answer was yes? Okay, because under Robert's Rules, the chair can't make the motion. If we're not going to be under Robert's Rules, we need to just create a new set of rules that
I'm a member of
we can
council.
follow.
I can make the motion.
Attorney Denmark, are we under Robert's Rules?
Yes, ma'am. But we, as a voting member of the city council, there's no reason why the mayor can't make a motion.
Then I suggest that we modify the ordinance we passed on Robert's Rules, and that we modify it so that the chair is able to make the motion, because under Robert's Rules, you can't. And we did agree to abide by Robert's Rules.
No. Next.
The only question, I had a question
Councilwoman.
related to the pothole tracker. Once we collect that data, how is that information getting from Stonecrest to DeKalb County?
Now, say that again.
Once we collect the information from the
Pothole
pothole
tracker?
tracker?
Yes, ma'am.
How is that information going from Stonecrest to DeKalb County? What time frame is that? Who's
Got you.
responsible for transferring that data?
Good evening again. As we covered at the town hall meeting last week, the pothole tracker was developed in-house by our resident computer whiz kid, Nathan Holman, our GIS analyst, who put this all together. The way it's set up is that as citizens are making pothole reports on the pothole tracker, it is coming into our system here, and he has a setup where we do receive those. On a weekly basis, I am responsible for transmitting all of the reported potholes into DeKalb County's roads and drainage contact that I have there. Whereupon I will receive a tracking number for each of the potholes that are entered in, and then the city will then be able to track those potholes and monitor that they're being filled by the county.
So would you say that's a more advantageous way of getting the information to the county is through the pothole tracker? Or does it maybe equal up to contacting the county directly?
Mm-hmm. Yes, actually, there are a number of ways that citizens are able to report their potholes. So if citizens decide to call in to our Stonecrest contact center, they can make a report that way. the contact center will then send me that information, and then I will send those into roads and drainage. The callers are also instructed to call DeKalb County to make the report themselves. Thereupon, they will then receive the tracking number, and they can track it on themselves. And then the third option is to use the pothole tracker app that's on the phone. The most advantageous way for a citizen to do it is for them to call themselves, get a tracking number, and then they can track it on their own. For the city's sake, if we know about the potholes, then we can track them on a citywide basis and see all of the potholes in totality.
So the citizens that reported through the Stonecrest pothole tracker, are they then able to call you back to find out what the status of that pothole is?
Yes. They can definitely do that. Our pothole tracker is tracking. You have to enter your name, your email address, and then it also the geo tracker on the app itself actually identifies the location of the pothole.
So do they get a correspondence back, though? I guess is what I'm trying to get at, to tell them where to go to get updates on that if it's reported through us versus reported directly through the county?
Yes, the way they would get that information is just to call back to City Hall.
Right, but so once they hit submit, are they receiving something on the other end to tell them what are the next steps to get updated on the status of their submission?
Let me follow up with.
Can I address that, Mr. Turner? Based on the meeting that we had, the last meeting, the mayor's straight talk, what was brought out was the fact that these potholes is like a moving target, and because of the way that the county, DeKalb County, because of the way they assign the repair of the potholes, it's hard for them to nail down the status of your particular, complaint, or however you want to put it. But if you go through the county and you call directly to the county, they won't, according to DeKalb County officials who was at this meeting, they said they won't be able to tell you the status of that pothole from the county's point of view, other than if it has actually been fixed. But they can't tell you like when it's going to get fixed or what, where it, staying in line with, something else compatible. So the whole, from the meeting, what I gather, the whole point of having the Stonecrest tracker was that this was an addition to what the county is already doing. So that in addition to the citizens in Stonecrest being able to dial directly into the county, they can also they can do both. They can dial into the county, get a tracking number, and they can report it to the city. So you're actually reporting it to two places. So from what you guys explained at the last meeting, once they report it to the city now has a database of the complaints or the specific locations of the potholes that they turn over as like a lump sum pretty much to the county, and that the city monitor in addition to the individual complainant or citizen who reported it, through a phone call.
Yeah.
So it just
I get that part. So the questions that I received back were just, one, how do I know, once I report it through the city, how can I verify or find a status? So even if the status is only either it's been filled or not, which is fine, they still wanted to know, it didn't tell me anything on what to do after I submitted. So, who do I contact or how do I check that update if I'm submitting through the city?
Right.
So I can just tell them to call Ples.
Yeah.
Good. Second question.
Ples or Tyrone?
In the short term. we will rectify. We will be rectifying that.
He may want to set up.
So Councilwoman, what I'd like to do is let me get back with our resident whiz kid and make sure that if at all possible, we have some type of feedback mechanism to be able to get back to them and let them know that it's actually been logged, and if possible, if we can figure out a way to get them the tracking number.
Great. My other question was, did the county mention any issues with redundancy with citizens reporting it to the county and then calling or using our tracker to report it as well? Was there any concern about redundancy in the report?
No, because what happens is as they are reported into the county, they'll send a truck out, and what happens is the county goes through a process of a triage type of process where they prioritize the calls that are the reports that are coming in. So the ones that are more severe, we have ones that you know, if a pothole is endangering life, so there's this big pothole and everyone has to swerve to miss it, that gets reported in. Then those are the first ones they're going to fill. Potholes that are damaging vehicles, busted tires, busted rims, those type of things. When they receive those reports, those are prioritized and those are sent out as well. The other potholes as they get them, then as they receive them, then they're sending out a crew to actually inspect the potholes. Then they just determine whether they're going to fill it right then or there, or whether they're going to find the much bigger ones and fill those in.
Right. Yeah. So I get that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is if there's a big severe pothole and I call the county, so I get a tracking number, and then I go on stonecrestga.gov and I report it there.
Right.
And then you send that same information to the county, in which they then turn around and issue another
Correct.
tracking number. So for the same pothole, have we somehow congested the system because the same pothole now has two tracking numbers?
Because it's the same as if 10 people see the same pothole and all 10 people report it.
Got it. Okay.
So really, the more information they receive, really the better. And if we break their system, I'm not really that concerned.
That's good.
But what this does do is put information in the hands of the city of Stonecrest. So when we start moving towards pothole repair on our own, we will have the information ourselves with the locations and the ones that have been reported the most.
You know, and as a city decides to move forward, and you know, eventually, you know, we're gonna have to take responsibility for doing that. You know, I would love to start doing it, you know, sooner rather than later, but we have to wait until we're in a position to do that. But we'll have some mechanisms in place, and we'll have some best practices in place for us to follow to make us even better in this particular world of service delivery. Okay.
What I like about this is that thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. What I like about all of it is that we have multiple people looking at multiple roads, making sure that we don't miss not just 1 inch of it. Even from a 2-minute in a truck and a digital standpoint. So that's really good. We're paying our city the right amount of attention to get things happen. And I appreciate that, Council. I appreciate that. And the citizens appreciate it also. All right. We'll move to number 6. The ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Article 3, adding the new departments. This is our second read.
Yes, Mayor, this is the second read on this item. We did go back and make the change to reflect the actual added departments to coincide with the departments that have been identified in our budget. So that amendment's been made. I think that was the only comment we had from the last first read.
Excellent. All right, let's see here. Okay, that takes us into the consent agenda items.
Second read, we got to vote?
Yeah, we still need to vote on that item.
I apologize. I'll take a motion for the actual approval of the new departments in the amendment.
Someone?
All right. Ms. Clanton said so moved.
Second.
Second by Rob Turner, Councilman Rob Turner. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes. Thank you, Council. Now we'll move into our consent agenda items.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to pull item 15.
Let's see here. Citizens Oversight Committee. We put 2 on that.
Sorry?
We put 2 on it. We put 2 people on it.
Pull item 15 for discussion.
For discussion. Okay, you're going to discuss it tonight?
No, I'm saying pull it off of the consent agenda.
All right.
Make it a regular. Put it on the regular agenda for regular discussion.
Okay. You'll need another person?
No.
All right.
That's it.
Okay, that's fine. No problem. So we'll pull for separate. All right. So that leaves us Arabian overlay. 12 would be the same way, Mr. Councilman, because we have to actually add people to that one. Right. And we need 2 other extra people for the Education Committee. So we have Arabian Mountain Overlay, the Stonecrest Finance Committee, the Steering Committee for the East Metro CID, and the Stonecrest Film Committee. That would be our consent agenda, Madam and Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, did you add the Education Committee as well? Is that noted?
I actually pulled the Education Committee because we need 2 other people.
All right.
So that would be Arabian Mountain Overlay Steering Committee, the Stonecrest Finance Committee, the East Metro CID Committee, and the Stonecrest Film Committee.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move for approval of the consent agenda after removing the two items stated. Items, what is that?
12 and 15.
12 and 15.
All right. Properly moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Consent agenda items pass. We are now moving into our
No, number 12.
number 12. Oh, you want to, I thought we were for a separate meeting or for now?
We discuss it now is what we're going to do with it.
All right. So for number 12, I need to have a conversation with Miss School Board Member Mrs. Turner and Dr. Lee. Once I have that conversation with those 2 people, then I'll know how we can move forward with regards to doing 2 things. One, making some more and official committee members to your committee, and the 2 council persons that I will be suggesting to be on that committee.
So are we moving to defer it until,
Well, I need to talk to them. So,
move to defer until next meeting to, that's February
11th.
11th?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Properly moved in second for February 11th. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. All right, number 15, the resolution to appoint members of the SPLOS Citizens Oversight Committee.
I had a question on that. I believe you had a specific finite number of members. Is that true?
I don't know what you mean by that.
You had a certain number of members you could appoint to the, according to the ordinance, there was a certain number of members you could appoint to the SPLOS Citizen Oversight Committee. Is that true?
I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that the number that does not count, I don't think the number counts the council persons that we have to have on it, because that committee is much smaller than the Arabian Mountain Committee, which has 3 council persons and a host of members.
I thought, well, I don't have it before me. That's my fault. I thought we gave a specific number. But anyway, the reason I said it is because we're adding 2 council members.
Right.
And if we're adding 2 members, and if we have already reached our max, then we'd have to subtract 2 regular members.
Well, see, I don't think that is, well, if you don't have the number on that, I don't think that's the case, because we didn't put a specific number on it. Did you put a specific number? The reason I keep going back with you with the Arabian Mountain Committee, did we have a specific number on that?
I don't believe we did. It's just that it's loose recollection. It could be another committee that we have a specific number on. Okay, and that being the case, but keep that in mind that if that is the situation, you're going to have to remove 2.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing a couple of things at a time. Say again, sir?
I'm saying if that is the case, then you're going to have to subtract 2, but we can pull it up and take a look at it. You want to approve it pending that?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think what we could do, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Turner, if this would satisfy you at all, if we remove the number, even if there is a number, because I don't understand, I wouldn't see where that number would make a difference as far as the committee.
That was discussion, said the SPLOS committee would have At one point, we said 12 members, one point we said 13 members.
Right.
We did say that.
Yeah, I remember that, and that's why I'm
And
saying.
if we have 13 members, and now we're adding 2 council members, then you're going to have 15 members. You're going to be over the number that you have stated. That would have to be fixed.
So that's what I'm saying. So in an attempt to fix it, would it be okay to phrase the motion to remove the number, to remove the
Exactly.
restriction on the number of members and to pass it?
No, you would have to change that whole ordinance in order to do that. I do believe.
You would have to amend the ordinance to do that.
Right, we'd have to amend the ordinance. Okay. Then can we amend the ordinance?
You can amend the ordinance in writing, yeah.
Okay.
But if that's what the will of the council is, you can certainly amend the ordinance. You can amend any ordinance that you enact. But if the question is, can you do it just by a voice vote, I would recommend that you bring a written amended ordinance before you and adopt it that way.
Okay. Then having said that, I'd rather amend the ordinance and add 2 council persons than to subtract 2 very good people from that committee because they're doing an excellent job.
Well, Mr. Mayor, are we satisfied that we have exceeded the number?
Right. Yeah. And that was going to be my question, Mr. City Attorney. Would it be okay? I mean, what would happen if we passed this now? And if we found out later on that there's there was that number limitation. My point is, would the committee be able to move along right now and, even pending, we knowing that there may be a number restriction, but we go ahead and approve it as is, add the two city council people to the committee. Later on, we find out that, hey, that was 12. What would be the harm?
Well, so
I mean,
the argument could be made.
I don't think it's an ordinance, though. I think it's a resolution.
I think it's a resolution as well.
Right. Well, I would recommend that we get some clarity on that, some certainty, because to the extent we had a number of members that exceeded the ordinance or the resolution, as the case might be, an argument could be made that any action taken by the committee would be void in as much as we were outside the parameters of the ordinance.
Okay, then this is what I suggest that we do. Then this is acceptable to council because in the same way that I have to add a couple of folks with regards to the Education Committee, at the same time we'll bring back, that'll give us an opportunity to actually, look at the ordinance or resolution to make sure we have the correct number added because I'm not going to take people off that committee. All right, acceptable?
Along with that, you created a citizen pothole oversight committee.
Yes.
Just personally, you think that could fit with this committee?
No. Let me tell you why.
Another committee.
We need a pothole committee. We need some straight eagle eye. I see a pothole, I want to do something about it committee. This is overall SPLOS committee. And they handle some very specific, educated. Not that the pothole committee won't be educated, but I need some focus on these potholes. And the reason I'm being deliberate, I'll use the term, deliberate about the pothole piece of it, is that I feel an urgent need of safety with these potholes. I do. And I think, focus would be good with regards to that.
Well, then the constitution of that committee was not clear. So you want to do that here?
Oh, no. What I suggested was that after the meeting, I would start to gather some volunteers along with you all, tell me. Because actually that night I asked for folks that was interested in being on the committee to to contact their council folks. And that gives me time to do both.
February 11th.
February 11th? Yes. That gives me a chance to do both.
Okay. Satisfied.
Good deal.
When you guys will draft the ordinance so we can see, or a resolution so we can see all the details on who makes it up and how long they serve and all that jazz.
It's my understanding that the ordinance already exists and the only issue is the number of members, but are you suggesting that we need to change something else?
Yeah, the committee doesn't exist.
Oh, you're talking about the pothole. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So that'll give us a chance to do exactly that. Yeah. I want it good. I want it proper. No problems. Okay. All hearts and mind clear? Very good.
Oh, did we need a motion to move? I think we do a motion to move.
We did.
Defer to 15.
Oh, do we? Oh, okay.
12, did we do?
I'll take your motion, sir.
Move to defer item number 15 to April, to February 11th.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So moved. Thank you, Councilman George Turner. I have to concentrate on which Turner that it was going to call. Good stuff, though. Good stuff. Okay, now we go into our public hearing. Okay, we're going to start with, and we actually start first, and then we make a motion as we go. If you would, please, sir.
Public hearing, item number 17, TMOD 18-0007, modification of short-term vacation rental. Stoja.
Okay, if I could request that we just adjust it a little bit, just to have the item come before you first be 6807 Covington Highway. That's RZ 17-007, and I apologize if that's what you already said, but I did want to make that clear. That application consists of a rezoning as well as a SLUP application. And the reason why I want to bring it forward first, if you would allow, of course, is because of the fact that this is a continuation of a previous SLUP and rezoning that was brought before mayor and council as well as the planning commission and approved. So with that indulgence, I would ask if we could hear those items together. However, you will vote on them individually.
Are you prepared? You making a presentation?
Yes.
Then we will hear RZ 18007 rezoning, and we'll hear special land use permit -18-007.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate your indulgence. This is the continuation of RZ 18-002 and SLUP 18-003. Within those applications, the applicant came forward and requested a rezoning in order to establish a 250-unit senior living facility. What the applicant has done since that time is they have acquired 2 additional acres and are asking to expand the rezoning and SLUP to that parcel to include it as part of this project in order to erect a community center that will be utilized by the senior citizens that will be part of this development. And they have also opened it to neighboring residents within the area to utilize as well. So with that, this application was heard at the January 3rd, 2019 Planning Commission meeting. The applicant is, of course, requesting the change of the zoning. The zoning would be to MR2, and they're also requesting the special land use permit in conjunction with this as well. So the Planning Commission has recommended approval for this item, and the applicant's here to answer any additional questions that you may have regarding this particular application. Thank you.
Council, any question for Ms. Dozier? At this time, we'll open the floor for public hearing. Can we get a motion?
Motion to open the floor for public hearing.
Second.
Been properly moved and second to open the floor for public hearing for both items, RZ 18007 and special land use permit -18007. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
All right. The applicant, those who are speaking in favor of this item, please address the podium. Those speaking in favor of these items. Mr. Attorney, since we are doing both items, and normally each item gets 10 minutes, are we, since we're doing them combined, is this 10 minutes or is this going to be a total of 20 minutes?
I don't think you can reduce the time on a individual application.
No, not reducing it. I'm saying, since we're doing 2,
Right.
Do we do 20 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
10 and 10.
10 and 10 for each one. Okay. Then seeing none in favor of this item, or either one of these items, is there anyone in opposition to this item? Please come forward. Anyone in opposition to either one of these items, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers, same sign. Public hearing is closed.
Once again, you'd just be voting at this time on RZ 18-001, which is the rezoning, and then you can call for the same motion for the SLUP, but it's one at a time that you'd adopt it. So at this point, you'd be calling the motion for RZ 18-007.
Can you help?
Let me, where's?
Yeah, oh, yes, please.
Okay. Ms. Dozier, what was staff recommendation?
Oh, staff recommended approval for this item. It
Okay.
appeared before the Planning Commission on the 3rd, and they also recommended approval for this item. If you look in your packet, the parcel is adjacent to the parcel that was previously approved for the 250-unit senior development.
Ms. Dozier, will this cause any problems with transportation with this new development?
It is not anticipated to do so. Once again, it is for the persons that will be living on site. They have opened it up to residents that live within the vicinity. So the thought process is if they could get there by walking, if they drive, either way, the applicant is willing to accommodate their utilization of it as well. So at this time, it's not anticipated.
Good, thank you.
Ms. Dozier,
Yes.
perhaps it's going to the attorney, but since these were added tonight, and you said they were already heard by the Planning Commission, and they were advertised?
Yes, let me clarify. These items were heard at the correct time frame, and they were advertised. The issue was it was just omitted off of your agenda for this evening. However, they were properly advertised. So the public has been made aware of it, and it is meeting legally the requirements for your advertising to be.
So this public hearing
Yes.
has had ample notice?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to offer the motion to approve ordinance for rezoning application RZ 18-007, 6807 Covington Highway.
Need a second? It's been probably moved in second to accept the rezoning of 18-007, 6807 Covington Highway. You ready for the question?
Ready?
Question.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers, same sign. Motion carries. The next item is the companion piece. It is a special land use permit -18-007. I'll entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I also offer a motion to approve the ordinance for rezoning application SLUP, SLUP, -18-007, 6807 Covington Highway.
Properly moved.
I thought the motion was to open the public hearing.
Oh, you did that?
Oh, we did it for both.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the second.
Famished to my mind.
Need a second.
Second, I'm sorry.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second to approve special land use permit -18-007. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposers, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, now we can proceed to TMOD 18-0007, as you originally stated, Mr. Chair. This item is two parts. It's Section A and Section B. Section A encompassing Chapter 27 and Section B encompassing Chapter 7. Item number A is just a cleanup modification to short-term vacation rental section, Section 4.2.58, and it's just providing clarity on the square footage of the square footage for occupancy requirement. There was some issues between 120 square feet versus 70 feet. So basically, in practice, it would appear that the building official has made a modification just to that square footage because he felt it worked better with the square footage that he's recommended. So that is the first change to A, and you'll see that it's page 1. It's 70 square feet per floor area per person. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that slight modification. That is modification A. Modification B is cleanup to the building code, specifically removal of language that is not applicable to the City of Stonecrest. When we adopted the building code, there were modifications made by DeKalb County that are not specific to the Georgia building code. The building official has gone in and removed that additional language just to ensure that the text within the chapter is identical or matching to the Georgia building code. So that is the modifications that are being required or requested in item number B for this particular item. The Planning Commission did hear this item on January 3rd. They recommended deferral for item A and approval for item B. The reason why they originally recommended deferral was because of the fact that the information was posted to our website a little bit late. However, because of the fact that mayor and council adjusted their meeting schedule, we had to re-advertise these items anyway, so they were re-advertised for additional 2 weeks. This provided the city as well as residents the ability to review the documents for an additional 2 weeks in conjunction with the original advertising time for these items. So that is the reason why they originally recommended deferral. However, at this time, there has been plenty review time available for the public to review the documents and the changes that are being proposed by staff. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any question before we open for public hearing?
One question. This is 70 square footage. What was it before?
I believe it was 120 initially we had written there, but because of the way that the language is originally written, it was a little bit convoluted. Therefore, we basically cleaned up by the language by stating in every dwelling unit of 2 or more rooms, every room occupied for sleeping purposes by 1 occupant shall not contain less than 70 square feet floor area, and every room occupied for sleeping purposes by 2 occupants shall contain 120 square feet in floor area, because they wanted to distinguish between people sleeping there and people just being in the room. So that is the reason why he added that clarification language to the text.
Okay, how would that impact our current short-term vacation rentals?
It actually, I mean, I wouldn't say it impacts it too much. It just provides a little more clarity in terms of people being there and then people sleeping there. That's all it does.
Does that address the party situation? I know that this says something about no parties, but the number of people being restricted.
Right. The issue, the reason why it's written this way is because there's a distinction difference between when people are just there because there might be something going on there and people sleeping there. So I believe that the building official's intent was to be very clear on if there are going to be 2 people sleeping in here, this is the square footage that you need to have. If they're just there for a day or whatever the situation may be, then it's 70 square feet. So he just added some language for clarity purposes. But once again, this whole provision is, of course, to address the short-term vacation rental issue that came before you previously.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Okay.
Item 17, I move that we open the floor for public hearing.
All right. So moved. Do I have a second? Probably moved in second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Floor is now open for public hearing. Madam Clerk, I think we start with those that are in favor.
Just call them to come to the podium.
Matter of fact, we can just call them to the podium. So this is 10 minutes, if I recall correctly. All right, so folks, for those that are in favor, let's not all rush the podium at once here. Okay. All right, going once. For all in favor? Going twice? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Ed Wassel, W-A-S-I-L. I live at 4394 Roundtree Lane, and it's a pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to talk about the Arabia Mountain Overlay District.
That's the next one.
Wrong one.
We're still on the short term.
Sorry.
No worries. Thank you for your patience also.
Just remember that intro and.
Okay. That's good. Very well done. All right. Seeing none that are in favor, we'll take those that are opposed to the modifications of the short-term vacation rentals. That's the one we're on. Seeing neither, I will take a motion to close public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing for TMOD 18-007, modification of short-term vacation rentals.
Second.
All right, so moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that public hearing is now closed. City Attorney, do we actually vote on the modification for the short-term rentals?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, then, sir, I will take a motion, council, for the approval.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion.
Sorry, I apologize. Ms. Preston is correcting me.
Oh. No worries. All right, that was the first read.
What about the second one?
So does the Arabia Mountain overlay, is that one, that's a, right.
Does it require?
I know, but does it require two reads before we get there? And this will be the first read on that one? Yes. All right, very good. Okay, so having said that, we'll have 2 minutes for the technical genius to work his magic, and we'll move to the Arabia Mountain overlay. There's a movement from the gallery. Oh, yeah. I didn't know if Mira Cardenas was going to jump in front of you or not. She was ready to go.
She is. I'm sorry for the delay. Okay, so this is TMOD 18-0008. It's the Arabia Mountain Overlay District and Map Introduction. Basically, we have Ms. Cardenas here, who is serving as co-chair of this particular committee, here to do the presentation to you all, to introduce you to the new text language, as well as the map that we will be introducing to the city of Stonecrest. Thank you.
Excellent. And here comes the Queen of the Mountain. All right, excellent, excellent.
I like that.
All right.
Thank you all very much for your time this evening. This is what I'm going to show you is a presentation that has been delivered at multiple meetings up to this point. The mayor requested last week that we have a presentation, so y'all are getting a presentation. And let's see, I don't have this on this screen, so I'll keep looking behind me. Some of this, because this is something that has been delivered at many public meetings, and I'm providing you all with the same presentation. Some of this is really to bring you up to speed on where we are and how we got to this point too, and some of the process behind what the committee reviewed. It'll only take me about 27 minutes to do this whole presentation. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Everybody's been here way too long.
No, please, no.
So, as you all are aware, but for the sake of folks in the audience who may not be, the reason that we consider an overlay in zoning is because there are special circumstances. There's an area that can't be covered by traditional zoning criteria, by the boxes that you have to fit things into. And so you develop an overlay that looks at that area in a more customized manner. And that's what we did as we were directed by the city council. When you all adopted DeKalb County's zoning as your basis, you have been making those changes as the needs of Stonecrest are taken into account. So DeKalb County, as a reminder, had a text that was called the Arabia Mountain Conservation Overlay, but they had no map associated with that text. And you've dealt with the maps and text in order to make your zoning legal. So at the time, the city decided not to adopt an overlay that did not have an associated map. So this committee was formed to look more fully into that and establish the overlay committee review process. And myself and Councilman George Turner were charged with being co-chairs of that committee. As you can see, the committee was made up of stakeholders, residents, community leaders, and a reminder that this committee is advisory only. We are making recommendations, which were then reviewed by staff and city attorneys. And I'm going to say that not all the recommendations, while I won't go into a great deal of detail, not all of our recommendations were accepted either by the attorney or by staff. Thank you to Councilman Turner for his leadership on this committee, and many members of the committee are here today, including Mr. Knight, Dave Marcus, Lori Brown, Cheryl Mathis, and I don't think I missed anybody. So we had 15 committees over the course of 15 committee meetings over the course of the year. All the meetings were advertised, were held here at City Hall, and were open to the public. We reached these recommendations, finalized them back in December in anticipation of the committee expiring on the 31st, but now I guess we can keep charging ahead. I also wanted to point out that this committee was not happening in a vacuum. At the same time, the city's comp plan public meetings were ongoing. And out of that, the citizens reported that green space was one of the top 3 assets in the city of Stonecrest. It makes up about 12% of the land mass. So I wanted to show you a little bit behind the process of what the committee looked at. We took a look at a study by Georgia State University that pointed us to this source called Rural by Design. So the picture that you see here is a picture of what a rural area might look like prior to traditional development. And then this is what happens. You can see how the streets fill in, how you lose tree cover, how you have a great deal, how the buildings and just the area develops. But what this points us to is that those two things are not mutually exclusive. You can still have a certain aesthetic while at the same time encouraging development that is sensitive to the area. So development and conservation are not exclusive. They can both exist. So one of the bases that we looked at was this study from Georgia State, from a group of Georgia State University students. And then we also looked at an overlay that is already in the city code, and that is in Tier 5 of the Stonecrest overlay, where you have a precedent already in your code for the protection of views from Arabia Mountain. And Tier 5 of the Stonecrest overlay is adjacent to the proposed Arabia Mountain overlay. So once we educated ourselves, one thing the first thing we looked at was the map. So the area primarily that would encompass the Arabia Mountain overlay is located south of I-20. I want to draw your attention to the areas of both medium and dark green, because those represent your current green space in this area. The committee drew a boundary that would encompass green space within and or natural resources within the boundary of the overlay, and areas that were adjacent to already determined green space or natural resources. And I'm going to kind of draw out what that line is, because I don't think it comes out real clear, but you all should have it in your packets. I am going to point out that that one change in this map that the committee recommended that was not approved by staff was a conflict here with the Stonecrest overlay, and that's something that will have to be worked out potentially at some other point. So now I'm going to take you through just the key purposes of the overlay. I'm not going to go in line by line what the ordinance has in it. So one of the key purposes, whenever we looked at whatever we were formulating, is to provide for the protection of natural resources and of the scenic views to and from Arabia Mountain. A second purpose, to provide reasonable and creative planning and development within the overlay while preserving natural landform and features, trees, and tree canopy. Another purpose, to not detract from or damage natural resources and scenic beauty of the district. And then this is really the key part of the overlay, and that is to promote clustering of development. So traditional development you can see on the right, where you have large lots, several cul-de-sacs, and then on the left you see you have the same number of houses, but you've better protected your tree canopy, you've clustered those homes, and you don't have as much intrusion on the landform. So it's really about finding a quality development that will suit the area while offering a variety of housing choices. So some of the ways that we achieved these goals through the text is creative use of topography, limiting lot coverage and heights. As I mentioned, this is primarily residential, so your heights are inherently limited anyway.
Ms. Cardenas,
sir?
Is it rude of me to ask you a question?
No, not at all. Go right ahead.
Would you? Could you go back to the? There you go.
Yeah.
So is one better than the other, or both are acceptable? Are we choosing between those two?
So on what you see on the right is what traditional suburban development might yield.
Big lots.
So you can see, the lots are bigger. But you're going to take up a lot more of the land mass.
Got it.
In this case, you're encouraging clustering. So you have the same number of houses. The houses themselves are the same, but they might be moved away from, I think in this example, there's a creek. So you'd move it away from the creek. You'd leave a little bit more tree cover.
A little smaller lot with more green, tree hugging, type of stuff.
I know how you feel about grass.
Yeah, well. I'm better.
So that's the idea, is to encourage the way the ordinance is written is to encourage the clustering behavior. One is traditional suburban subdivision development. One is a conservation subdivision model. They can both exist in the same city and both be very successful, and both attract buyers and residents and quality development without impeding on your one of your biggest resources, your green space.
The work that you all have done allows this.
Yes, that is the intent, is to allow it.
Thank you.
So as we talked about, limiting lot coverage and heights of buildings, protecting tree cover, encouraging that clustering, buffering, and that means buffering from the roadway too, so that as you drive down, you might not see a subdivision development right there because they'll be set back further from the road, and to institute a non-binding review process. So this presentation itself was actually delivered at 3 informational meetings hosted by various city council members in districts 1, 5, and 4, which are all 3 affected by the overlay. We did appear at the Planning Commission meeting on the 3rd. We have received no concerns from anyone at any of the meetings. We handed out about 30 maps and copies of this presentation to folks who attended those meetings. At the Planning Commission meeting, 9 folks spoke in favor of the overlay. And so we feel like we've done a pretty good job of getting the word out about what we've been working on. So, and if you have any questions as we go along, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council.
Just to, recognition, contribution from Councilman Clanton and Adama, and Cheryl Mathis is also in the room. I think we missed her.
All right.
Dave and Lori and thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Well, yeah. All right, excellent. Okay. Then we'll start the parade over again. We will call for those that are in favor. They actually open it. I apologize. To actually open the, so I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we open public hearing for item TM0D 18-0008, Arabia Mountain Overlay District map.
All right. I'll properly move. A second?
Second.
Properly moved in second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Public hearing is now open. We'll take those that are in favor on the premise that I need to hear your speech again.
Okay, ditto. My name's Ed Wassel, W-A-S-I-L. I live at 4394 Roundtree Lane. You and I met Mr. Mayor down at the Arabia Mountain when you were running for office.
That's right.
And an interesting conversation, I remember. But anyway, I'm here tonight to reflect my wife and I's support for the Arabia Mountain Overlay District map. There's multiple reasons for this. We came to 4394 Roundtree Lane and bought that property in 1986, May. Built our house that summer, moved in October, and we were the second house on the street. It is now pretty much maxed out at 10, I believe the number is, homes. To be honest with you, to look at the overlays that you had questions about, the example on the right is exactly what we got, but it's only one cul-de-sac. But it's big lots, houses. Wouldn't survive today, which is okay. You know, times have changed. Primarily, in an attempt to demonstrate that this isn't just another old guy that's adverse to change. As times went on since we've been there, we did organize ourselves against the modernization and mechanization of the quarry across the street from us when they wanted to do that. That organization turned into the Klondike Association, which in effect drove the Arabia Mountain change in designation with the help of our Senator Max Cleland at the time. Stepping back, he was a local Lithonia resident, born and raised, and was a member of my wife and I's church, and it worked out pretty well. So when I look now at the district overlays, I say, how does that affect me? And it doesn't. We're left alone. And so you say, okay, that's good. That makes Ed happy, you know, which is nice. What it does do is allow a beginning of a review for you all to say, okay, with time, there's going to be more people other than those folks involved in items number 17 and 18 this evening that want a change in the zoning or a change in the ordinance. And, you know, you'll remember this old guy that stood in front of you and said, yeah, okay, this is pretty good. Let's go through it a step at a time. If I could, and I'm doing this in all sincerity, Councilwoman, excuse me, Adoma was exactly right this evening when she says you guys need a procedures book, actually be volumes. How do we do business here? It shouldn't be a hard question to answer when the young lady on the other end asks, is this in accordance with our procurement policies? And everybody sort of looks down and then finally says, yeah, it is. You know, this should be, yeah, here's the checklist. These are all the things that we did. And to the point that you all would even stop asking that. The reason I say that as part as your administrative program that procedures that you develop will be your procedures affected with zoning changes. You need to do that because the last place you want a whiff of malfeasance is in zoning changes. You guys want to look, smell, and be completely above board. Like you said, Mr. Mayor, I wrote it down. There's lots of other things staring you in the face right now, right? So if you could consider this overlay district map as the first step in your plans for the long distant future and to give you the tools that you will need to effectively grow Stonecrest, then everything should work well for you. Thank you.
Excellent, Ed. Appreciate that. We have how much time? 5 minutes. Okay. All right. Are we calling them by name, or would they just come on up? Oh, just come on. Oh, you come, sir. What? Okay. Like the clock is running.
I think you all know who I am, so I won't waste time with that. I moved here in 91, and I moved actually in the middle of this overlay district. I have always regarded zoning as something that protects me. I know what's going to go around me. I know what's going to go across the street from me unless there is a rezoning or a special permit, etc. The overlay district provides special protection for Arabia Mountain and the green space. It provides special protection for those of us who have chosen Stonecrest as a home because of the green space. Arabia and the green space are one of the few things that distinguishes us so far. It is a regional, if not southeastern destination, and will be a larger one in the future, bringing in money, bringing in recognition. I ask that you approve this so that the maximum protection is available for that district, and the district stays as it develops, as it adds rooftops, in largely the condition and the beauty that it is. Thank you.
Very good, Dave. Very good. All right.
My name is Alex Hoffman. I live at 4405 Roundtree Lane, not far from my friend and neighbor Ed Wassel. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to we've all echoed the value of the overlay district as protecting things. I attended, it was either a planning commission meeting or a public council meeting, when someone brought up this, says, what are we going to do to draw higher end grocery stores like Whole Foods? Your planning representative said, we need to improve the demographics so that they want to come here. I respectfully submit that by protecting this area and growing it in a smart, managed fashion, you will draw the people that fit those demographics. That fits in with the overall Stonecrest plan. It protects what we as residents, I've lived here for 31 years. And I moved here from Stone Mountain specifically to find the more rural nature of DeKalb County. That's what I wanted. My family, my two girls were raised here. One's, sad to say, living in Chicago, and I think tomorrow having minus 51 on the Fahrenheit, and yet she chose to live there. She's smart, but I couldn't talk her out of it. Anyway, long story short, my point is that there's a vision for this city. There's a vision for this area. And part of that is bringing things to it that from a commercial standpoint, they're not going to come unless the right people are here that are willing to and able to spend the money in those institutions, if you will. Arabian Mountain is the draw. Protect it. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Ms. Grimes.
Greetings. I am Tammy Grimes. I live at 3640 Trinity Place, a place I am proud to call home. When we developed that subdivision along with two other couples back in 2002, our first homes went into that subdivision. We knew we were in a gym area. And we all, young couples, still wanted to have a rural effect that we could call home. And that's what we've done. We've raised children. Some are gone, some are still there. Give us this, give us what we all know is best for this area. We want it. We gotta have it. Sensitive growth, sensitive change, that's what we need around here. We can go downtown to be busy, but when we come home, I don't want any other company but the deer, the fox, and the event, sometimes bobcats. Don't let us down. Don't let us down. We have a minute. Somebody else may want to speak. Thank you.
She is. There she is. Excellent.
I know I don't have much time, and my name is Lori Brown, and I'm at 2982 Arabian Woods Drive. I am the subdivision that is called Arabian Woods that's in question that was in the box that two or three committees are working on. I'm actually in the Stonecrest overlay. At the Planning Commission meeting when I spoke, it was voted on with a recommendation with the Planning Committee that they approved the map with Arabian Woods being included. I know there's some legality to it. I know that committees are working for this, but I worked on this committee. We work really hard on this committee. I do approve the map with the exception of having my subdivision included, which was recommended by the Planning Commission. And I know everybody's working it out. I know people are working with me. I want to thank everybody that's been supporting me. Thank you for the whole process. And please look at the recommendation of the Planning Committee.
Thank you. Excellent. 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 All right. Now we'll call for those that are opposed.
Get a stick.
Yes, ma'am. You started. Holy Moses.
Thank you. I'm already feeling mighty lonely. I've often thought that there should be a third category in these public hearings, that you have folks who are in favor, folks who are against, and there ought to be another category where you can say that you're mostly in favor, but there are certain things that you wish would be a little bit different. And I particularly feel lonely in tonight's atmosphere, which I think is mostly justified, of good feelings. This is something that should be done. But I do think certain things have not been apparent, either from the presentation that you saw tonight or at any of the places where it's been played. Certain aspects of what y'all are about to do should be made clear. And I guess what I'm doing, since I was on this committee, and I enjoyed very much with working with everybody on the committee, is in the nature of, I suppose, a minority report or maybe a footnote or maybe an asterisk. First of all, if you take another look at the map, we're talking about, well, I haven't seen any percentages, but it looks like, just eyeballing it, we're talking about a huge area, perhaps 40% of the city south of I-20. That's a lot. The second thing is, one man's protection is another man or woman's restriction. The key thing here is that the amount of impervious surface that you can have on any parcel has not changed from the days when this was just a text in DeKalb County. It's 25%, which means that anybody who is within this new overlay can only have concrete driveway, swimming pool, patio, and the square footage of the footprint of their house, which together come up to just a maximum of 25% of their lot. The rest, the other 75%, they're not supposed to touch. In addition, if you take a close look at the ordinance, and I forget the exact percentage, but essentially what it's saying that essentially you can't cut down any trees. Now, it's one thing to talk about large swashes or areas of currently vacant land which might be developed for residential subdivisions. I think this ordinance is very properly applied there. It's another thing to talk about protecting Arabia Mountain and other areas of green space, which we want to remain in green space in perpetuity. I think that's certainly justified too. But when you get into the existing residential subdivisions, which is where my client, Mr. Kelly, lives, then I think you need to ask a question. What is the purpose of including these subdivisions in the overlay? And I know there are a lot of folks out here who are very enthusiastic about doing that. But I suspect that there are a lot of folks who don't know anything about this who might not be. Once they find out that they cannot add a swimming pool or a patio or a lot of other things to their lot or cut down any trees without going to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I will tell you quite frankly, it's no answer at all to say, well, these folks have a remedy, the Board of Zoning Appeals. Most of the times, that's an illusion. Because to show that you can get a variance before the Board of Zoning Appeals, you've got to show that you have some extraordinary circumstance. If you just have a plain vanilla lot that's rectangular or square, average topography, you just don't qualify, period. So what's happening with these existing residential subdivisions that are on the border or periphery? They're being used as buffers. That might or might not be an appropriate use. What I'm trying to do basically is not necessarily say vote against this, but I did want to at least give you that footnote, that asterisk, to let you know that it's not all Skittles and beer. There is going to be some hardship that's applied not against residential subdivision folks who want to come in and cut down 100 acres of forest and put in houses or townhomes, but it's going to apply to the little person, the average person who lives in an existing residential subdivision and maybe next year, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, suddenly finds that there's this overlay, which they probably didn't know about before, and that it's going to severely restrict what they can do. And then they look around and they see, well, why is my subdivision even in the overlay? What does it have to do with Arabia Mountain per se, other than being a buffer? Again, that's a policy decision for you all to make. I just wanted to be sure that you were aware of it. Thank you.
Next, not in favor? Your assumption was correct, sir. All right. I will go once, twice. Take a motion to close.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing for item number 18, Arabia Mountain Overlay District map.
All right, properly moved. There's second.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Hearing is now closed. This was our first read, correct? All right, action taken. Mr. City Manager.
No comments.
Adam and Mr. City Attorney.
No comment.
My apologies.
Everybody, how they say.
No comments.
All right. Councilwoman Zoma.
In March, we will be hosting the second annual, it'll be National Women's Month. So we'll have the second annual Women's Month breakfast at the Hilton Hotel.
Councilman Turner.
Let me just say that as City Council, we are required to take certain training to come up to speed on city operation. And the Carl Vinson Institute by way of GMA, or the GMA by way of Carl Vinson Institute. Anyway, they sponsor a lot of those classes, and myself and Councilwoman Odama did complete a phase of it. The first phase was 42 hours, and we were recognized with a certificate for our completion of that phase of the training. So we have some smarts. You're familiar with the Flat Rock Archives. It's on Crossbell Road. It's not on the main thoroughfare. A lot of us pass that way, but it doesn't necessarily get the traffic that it should get. On February 28th, they will have a grand opening at the DeKalb County Courthouse, where they're going to be relocated temporarily. So pass the word that they are on display with the history of this area at the DeKalb County old courthouse, the historic courthouse, for the Flat Rock Archives. The one on Flat Rock, one on Crossbell will still be open. It's just that part of the exhibit has been moved to that location. You'll get more about that as the weeks go on.
All right. Councilman.
Mr. Mayor, as usual, District 1 will have our regular monthly meeting Saturday, the first Saturday of the month at 10 o'clock at Stonecrest Library on Klondike Road. Last month we had Gordon Burkett and Chris, I can't think of Chris' last name. He's with the CID, East Metro CID, and Gordon Burkett is with the Keep the Cab Beautiful. We always have, special guests show up, so I'm asking you guys to come out again. We had a Piked House last time, so, we talked candidly about issues that concern the citizens of the city of Stonecrest. We want to get more in-depth information on any number of issues. We talk about those issues. So that's pretty much it. From District 1.
Oh, man.
Just like to invite you, as always, to our monthly second Saturday community breakfast at the House of Hope on 4950 Flat Shoals Parkway. We had a wonderful start to the year with an incredible prayer breakfast, so we know the foundation is laid for a great year and some wonderful information and a good time of fellowship coming this year. So look forward to seeing you there on February 9th at 9 o'clock for some good food and some good fellowship. Thank you.
Excellent. Right, man.
Some good prayer.
Good food and some good prayer.
Councilwoman.
I just want to remind everybody that to be careful tomorrow. We got the weather coming in to be okay tonight and early in the morning tomorrow, but around 9-ish going forward, be some weather, so just be very careful. Try to stay in, make sure you drip the water, faucets, and just be careful. Let my DOT get on the road and clear that black ice.
Great. I'll be brief. Mayor Cardenas and I have had this running joke for some years now. And as I see the gentleman talk here, I'm actually a tree-loving, nature-walking 5-year guy. Every 5 years or something like that. But that's okay. That's okay. Because I think, and not only do I think, I know this end of it is very important. She'll tell you I've supported it from the first day. And even though I said at one time that I would pour concrete over everything that was green, I don't actually mean that. Particularly being from a small town myself and participating in 4-H for years. However, first time I met Dave Marcus and Cheryl Mathis, I was inhaling a bunch of bricks over this same situation. But I want to assure you this, folks, that I want to do it all. I want us to do it all. I want to have the great green space. I want to have the open lots. I want Miss Grimes to go back and have deer chase her and she chase them. All of that. I want us to have it all. But here's also what I want. I want you to look downtown Stonecrest, and we have a sprawling, bustling business place that you all can go and eat at new restaurants, have an art center, making that our mall looks as though it's some revamp of things that you would never see before. See, we can have it all. It's not a right or wrong. It's just a matter of focus. And the matter of focus is this. You need, and the gentleman mentioned it earlier, you need the type of commerce and rooftops and the demographics to draw those other things so that we can quite frankly, have corporations carry the freight of the bulk of the taxes. Our taxes can stay low. We can keep our green space, and it can be and will be and is a wonderful place to live. But it takes balance. It takes balance. So I'm going to make this deal with you today. I'll help you hug trees if you help me build buildings. How about that? Come on, come on. There we go. There we go. Not all at once. I know it'll rub on you just for a little while, but we're going to hug trees and we're going to build some commerce at the same time. How about it, Joe? Yes, sir. Motion for adjournment? So moved. Second. I'll be out front for those that want to be pothole committee members.
Give your name right now, Mayor.